So, this is Minnie Hinkeldreck.
That's right. This here's Jimmy. He's my little nephew, see?
Oh, I see.
Can you all hear me? Can you hear with that? Okay.
I want to know why they have to come here and talk to these people. They all look pretty smart to me.
Yeah, I think they are pretty smart.
Yeah.
I think it's nice that she invited us, don't you?
Oh, I do too. But I still don't know what we're going to do.
Well, we're just going to talk to each other and we're going to see if we know any of these people. Oh, there's Barbara Snyder. Look, hi Barbara. There's Pam. Hi Pam. How are you? There's Pam. There's Alice Fickle. I know her. Hi Alice. How are you? Let's see who else do we know.
I know.
Hey, there's Rita Hess.
Yeah, Rita Hess.
That's her husband, they say it.
And
I think that's her kid. I don't know if that's the daddy or not, but she likes her.
I see Gail Berkey back there.
Oh, okay.
All the way.
But any of you know what Hinkeldreck means? My last name.
Chicken manure.
What is it?
Chicken manure.
You are right. I'm so glad you didn't say the other Alice. That was very nice of you. She said it manure instead of the other. I think that's pretty nice.
You don't say that. You usually say chicken shit.
I know. Jimmy, now stop it. Now Jimmy, poor little soul, he ain't too good looking. But, you know, he's a good-hearted soul, and he wants to get married so bad. And every time he asks his parents if he can get married, they say no. Well, the other night at supper, he said to him, listen, I'm 38 years old now, and I really would like to get married. Would you please say yes? And his mother looked and looked and looked around, and she said, well, Jimmy, I'm still going to say no because I think you should graduate from high school first.
Well, I'm working on it. I got my book here.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I made it to second grade this year.
Well, my brother-in-law, yeah. He went to the Middleburg auction the other week, and he had his son with him, and he went, I get the fathers. Do you ever get the summer itch? I have it right now. He went to the Middleburg auction, and he was looking at a horse, and he was rubbing its legs up and down, and he was rubbing its chest, and he was rubbing its, its face, and his little boy said, Daddy, what are you doing? Acting like that. He said, well, he said, when you want to buy something, he said, you want it to make sure that it's all right, that it's good and healthy. That's why I'm doing that. And the little boy got a terrible funny look on his face. And he said to his dad said, what's the matter with you? Oh, Daddy, he said, I think the FedEx gave me and wants to buy Mom. Yeah, that's true. No, honest it is.
I think that's true.
Yeah, it is true. I heard you got kicked out of the swimming pool. What happened?
Well, the lifeguard said I was peeing in the pool. He scared the bejesus out of me. I almost fell in.
Jimmy, that's awful. Well, that's bad. My Lord. Well, my husband, a couple of years ago, went to sign up for Social Security. And I said, now listen, I said, you have to have all these papers and all this stuff ready to show the people, about Social Security. Well, just like they do, they don't listen to you. And he went off, and there lay the papers on the counter. I thought, well, that's nice. He won't even be able to get Social Security. Well, he came home all smiles. I said, well, I don't suppose you got Social Security, did you? Well, he said, yes, I did. I said, well, how come? Well, he said, I got down there and I told the lady, I've forgotten the papers, but I really am 65. And she said, I sort of believe you, but open your shirt and let me see your chest. And he did, and she seen all the gray hairs, and she said, yeah, I think you're 65. And he said, I got arthritis, and she said, yeah, I believe it. And he said, I got it. I said, it's a shame she didn't look down your pants, maybe you could get disability too. They like that. Yeah, they did. They're embarrassed.
Anyway, Minnie and I were up at Riverwood the other day, and we were there looking at some people, and we saw these three older ladies sitting on a park bench out there, and this older guy walked by. They said, "Hey there, Joe, bet we can tell you how old you are." He said, "No, you can't." They said, "Well, pull down your pants and your underdrawers, and we'll be able to tell." So he was a little embarrassed, but he did it anyway. So they said, "Now turn around the circle 3 times." And he turned around and they said, "Now jump up and down." He jumped up and down. They said, "You're 87 years old." He said, "How'd you know that?" He said, "They said we were to your birthday party the other day."
Well, 3 old ladies were sitting together and they were talking about the good old days and how cheap stuff was, you know, back then. Do any of you remember the grocer, the guy that used to come around in the truck with the vegetables and stuff? You remember him? And how about the milkman used to come? And the baker and the butcher, right? And the Iceman coming, yeah. And anyway, so the women were talking about it, and they said, you know, the prices nowadays are so terrible, and we remember, well, they said, I remember the one said that we used to buy cucumbers for like a nickel. Unbelievable. And the second lady said, yes, and she said, we used to get them big onions, big nice onions for a penny a piece. And she said, they're 60 cents now. And the third one said, I don't know what you're talking about, but I think I knew him. They don't get it.
They're trying to pretend they don't get it. Well, I went to the doctor last week, and I got home. My wife said, "How'd you make out at your doctor's appointment?" And me, I said, "Well," he said, "I had a body of a 25-year-old." He said, "Well, you better give it back. You're getting it all wrinkled."
I went to the doctor too, and guess the doctor told me, he said, "You had the body of a 40-year-old." So I went home and I told my husband that. I said, he said I had the body of a 40-year-old. He said, "What did he say about your big fat ass?" I said, "He didn't ask about you."
Well, you know, I'll tell you something about Minnie. Minnie kind of likes guys.
Yeah, I do.
Well, last week she called William Cameron Fire Company. She said, "You got to get over here. There's 3 naked guys climbing a ladder up to my room." They said, "Man, you want the police department. You don't want the fire." Oh, she said, "No, I'm afraid their ladder isn't long enough."
They have a longer one now, I guess. You know what I mean?
You know him, Donnie, out there, lives in that farm next to the other farm over there. Anyway, one day, one of the neighbors went over to that house, and little boy came.
Oh, holy cow! Well, my hat done the trick. Wait a minute here, I can hardly bend over or nothing. Call FAT. Oh, now it's stuck in here.
This is part of the act.
It could be. Eleanor liked it.
Well, now you really got it.
Here,
That's
good.
why. Anyway, same little boy. Then a neighbor comes over to his house, and the little boy comes to the door, and he said, "What can I do for you?" And the farmer said, "Well, I want to see your dad." He said, "My dad's not here right now." He said, "But I know where all the tools are if you want to borrow all the tools, or you want to borrow the tractor." He said, I can help you out with all that kind of stuff, but Dad's in town." The farmer said, "No, I want to talk to your dad about your brother Bob getting my daughter pregnant." Well, the old boy thought for a second, and he said, "Well," he said, "I know he gets $50 for the poor pig." and $100 for the bull. I don't know what he charges for Bob.
When Neil Hess, you know, he was over here and there, and his daddy was in the meat business for years and years and years, and then Neil got into it too, and this one neighbor was complaining about his bull, that his bull just wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. And this got to be a problem because, well, it just did. It was his livelihood, you know. And so he went to the vet, and he told the vet that the bull just wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. So Neil was very interested in this, and he saw the guy one day, and he said, "How's the bull?" Oh, he said, "It's wonderful." He said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "I went to the vet, and the vet gave it pills." He said, "Well, what for pills are they?" He said, "I don't know, but they taste like peppermint." Neil wanted some.
I think he had some. Well, we're talking about Neil and Rita, you know where they lived down there.
Right, they did. Now they don't anymore.
Well, they did. They lived down there, and they had that farmer across the road there. One day the farmer came and said to Neil, "I got a new cow."
Oh.
Yeah, he said, "I got a new cow." And he said, "I'd like you to come over and take a look at him." So Neil went over and took a look at him, saw the new cow, and he said, he pulled on the cow's udder, and the cow passed gas. And he pulled on the other udder, and the cow passed gas. Neil said, "You got this cow in Winfield, didn't you?" He said, "How did you know?" He said, "My wife's from Winfield."
That's awful. You know, I know this is true. We were at church the other day, and my grandson was with us, and outside in the vestibule there's a plaque like with the names of all the people that died, you know, in the service from the church. So my grandson said, "Grandma, what is that?" I said, "Well, that's people, the veterans, and the men and women that died in the service." And he got a real funny look on his face. He said, "Oh my, the 8:30 or 10:30.
Well, I was going to tell you, Dale Berge back there. Dale Berge.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, all the way back there in the corner. Dale Berge played football in high school, and they had to make special shoes for him. They put TGIF on them. Toes go in first.
Hey, you know when you're getting old because everything either leaks or dries up. That's the truth. I know from experience.
When I was coming here today, I drove by the old Beckel place there, brought back a lot of memories. I was in there one day, and this guy walked in, and he hobbled in and sat down on his stool, ordered a banana split. The waitress said, "Crushed nuts." He said, "No arthritis."
Well, I went on a cruise for the first time a couple months ago, and it was really nice, you know. And so I went on the cruise, and I thought I want to really get a load of everything. So I was standing out in the deck, and it was a little windy, you know. Usually out in the deck it's pretty windy. And the wind was blowing, and this guy come up to me and said, "Excuse me, but you know your dress is blowing up." I said, "Don't worry about it." So then he said, "Excuse me," he said, "Lady," he said, "your dress is blowing up, and you don't have any panties on, and you are exposed." And I said, "Listen, what you see is over 80 years old, but I just bought this hat." I hold on to it.
Yeah, well, yeah. You remember that night? This is another true story.
Okay.
A buddy of mine lives out there, and over out there,
Okay.
and he come into town a little while ago, and his car broke down. And so he decided he's going to have to walk home, but when he did, he went over to Cole's Hardware, and he bought a bucket of paint, and he bought a 5-gallon bucket. Then he stopped over the meat market, and he got a goose and 2 chickens. Well, he's standing there with the 2 chickens and a goose and 5-gallon bucket and a bucket of paint, and Minnie comes walking by. Now, he told me this story. she doesn't know I know this.
Thanks a lot.
And she comes by, she said, you know how to get to William Penn Drive? He said, yep, I'm going that way. He said, I'll take you, you can walk with me. I'm going there now if I can figure out how to carry all this stuff. And she said, very quickly, you put the paint in the 5-gallon bucket, you put a chicken under each arm, and you carry the goose with the other hand. And he said, oh, well, thank you. So they started down, they're going down St. Anthony Street there, and they come to Peachtree Alley. And he said, let's take a shortcut going down Peachtree Alley down here. She said, I don't know about that. She said, how do I know you're not going to back me into the fence down there and take advantage of me? He said, how can I do this carrying all that, doing all this stuff? She said, well, you put the goose down, you put the 5-gallon bucket on top of it, you put the paint on top of that, and I'll hold the chickens.
That's right. Hey, my friend and I were sitting on the park bench, and right across the street was a big flower show going on. And we were sitting there. It was a nice day and everything, but I said, you know what? I said, ain't it awful when you get older, you're sitting around here, I said, you get bored and you don't know what to do. It seems like you don't have any fun anymore. I said, you know what? For $5, I'd just take off all my clothing and streak right through that flower show. And my friend said, here you're on. She gave me $5. So I fumbled around out of my clothes. It ain't easy, you know, anymore. And I went right through that flower show, and my friend heard this awful hollering and screaming and clapping and cheering and carrying on. And after a while, I came flying out. She said, what in the world is going on? I said, I won first prize for the dried arrangement. Yeah. Well, I tried on one of them thongs. My granddaughter's wearing them, still trying to get it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about you? Are you going to sing us a little song?
Well, I can't sing it.
I wish you would. He's pretty good at that. And then I have something I want to read, which is really nice. I mean, it's not funny or dirty or ugly or nothing.
You're going to have to
I'll hold it for you.
You're going to have
Yeah, I will.
to almost bought that, too.
Yeah,
Notice I have my green strap for the green dragon.
that's right. You're very good.
Patriotic.
That's not patriotic.
Loyal.
Loyal.
Okay.
Is that close enough?
This song here is, again, this is not about anybody in here. Might be about me.
Yeah, Minnie.
Well, I stepped out of the shower, got a good look at myself. Hot belly, gray hair, I thought it was someone else. I caught my reflection on the mirror on the back of the bathroom door, and I just don't look good naked anymore. So I went upstairs, I turned the mirror to the wall. I hung it there when I was young and slim and trim and tall. I used to smile and strut and flex until my arms were sore, but I just don't look good naked anymore.
That's right.
Well, I used to go out with the girls, I loved them one and all. Now they don't ever get close to me, they're afraid I'm gonna fall. I went to the doctor for my annual medical exam. I stood there in the buff and he just said, oh, man. I said, what is it, doc, some fatal disease? I gotta know the story. He said, nah, you just don't look good naked anymore. My wife and I had a dance routine, it really was unique. Now it's only when we're back to back that we're dancing cheek to cheek. I went to a nudist beach for a little seaside fun. I laid down in my birthday suit, soaking up the sun. there's an old white whale washed up on the shore. I guess it just don't look good naked anymore. Well, my heart just fell and my chest went to hell and my butt's dragging on the floor. And I just don't look good naked anymore. Yeah, my heart just fell and my chest went to hell and my butt's dragging on the floor. And I just don't look good naked anymore.
I have one more thing, and this is serious. This is very serious, very serious. I have to read this. Remember, old folks are worth a fortune. Silver in their hair, gold in their teeth, stones in their kidneys, lead in their feet, and gas in their stomach. I've become a little older since I last saw you, and a few changes have come into my life since then. Frankly, I have become quite a frivolous old gal. I'm seeing 5 gentlemen every day. As soon as I wake up, willpower helps me out of bed. Then I go to see John, and Charlie Horse comes along, and he takes a lot of my time and attention. When he leaves, arthritis shows up and stays the rest of the day. He doesn't like to stay in one place very long, so he takes me from joint to joint. After such a busy day, I'm really tired, and I'm glad to go to bed with Ben Gay. The preacher came to call the other day, and he said at my age I should be thinking about the hereafter. I told him, oh, I do all the time. No matter where I am, in the parlor, in the kitchen, or down in the basement, I ask, what am I hereafter?